Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Runewords. We got another new rune word from the glorious 2.6 patch, which is coming. Unfortunately, this particular rune word I'm not going to be able to create for you guys. I know, boo-hoo. It has an effect on it which does not exist within Hero Editor, and there's nothing I can really do about it. I will do my best to get it added into the pack eventually. When 2.4 or 2.6 PTR comes out, I should be able to somehow export it from the PTR and add it into the Hero Editor then. But as it is right now, I can't add this one effect that's underlined here, and that's really the meat and potatoes of this rune word. So let's go over this rune word together, and let's talk about the various effects that are going on here, and what I think about this rune word. So it is a claw rune word. It's Mal Gul Thul. And the Gul rune is the highest rune word in here, which makes it a sea level 53 item. As you can see, it has a very prominent ability of 25% chance for finishing moves to not consume charges. And this is kind of insane because it potentially makes for an insanely high damage output when utilizing an ability that can burn charges extremely fast. Most notably is the finisher known as Dragon Talon. Dragon Talon has a rather large number of kicks, and the kicks happen extremely fast, and if you build enough attack speed, you can potentially get off anywhere between, I think 8 is the maximum number of kicks, like if you have like the highest IAS possible, and plus the skills and all that other bullcrap, like I think 8 kicks is your top end, right? So you could potentially burn, essentially, 8 kicks per attack, and if you could potentially keep all of your charges for those 8 kicks, you are essentially burning 8 charges per rotation, and the amount of damage that you could potentially do from the charges with this is kind of insane. On top of that, apparently, the 25% chance does stack. So what they're telling us is that if you wield 2 of these claws, like Wolverine himself, you can get a 50% chance for finishing moves not to consume charges, which is much more likely for you to burn charges on every single kick. And this means that you can literally just like absolutely annihilate like anything within range of you. And we'll talk more about that later. We also have +2 martial arts on here, which of course is nice since you're going to be a martial arts assassin. We have 20% increased attack speed, which is always nice to have on weapons. 200% to 250% enhanced damage, so there's a little bit of a variable there. 20% bonus to attack rating. We also have 3 to 14 cold damage, which comes from the Thul rune. And then we have prevent monster heal, which comes from the Mal rune. So just in general, it's not like the greatest claw in the world in terms of like its damage output or special effects, other than that finishing move doesn't consume charges thing. So if you're going to use this claw, you're going to be using it specifically for the fact that it doesn't consume the charges. So what I want to go over here is I want to talk about the abilities. So what kind of charges would you not consume, right? Well, first off is you're going to have to build Dragon Talon with this. You probably wouldn't want to use Dragon Flight, Dragon Tail, or Dragon Claw. None of these are going to be as effective as the multi-kick Dragon Talon. And the reason why it works out this way is because if you're going to be taking advantage of the fact that you don't burn charges, you're going to want to burn as many of these charges that you're not consuming as fast as possible. So the more of them that you can consume, the more charges that you can use within a short time period, the more damage that you can output. And Dragon Talon is just the best ability to use with this claw. And what can you output? Well, I mean, just let's explore for a second. So Phoenix Strike already has 3 AoE abilities. You've got your Meteor, you've got your Chain Lightning, and you've got your Chaos Ice Bolt. They're all AoE attacks, and they all dish out a really nice amount of damage within a small space. These 3 abilities by themselves, not even counting everything else, if you can spam all of these within a small space, everything within that space is going to die. You have to think that this is 8,064 lightning damage times 8, or 3,396 fire damage times 8, or 1,767 cold damage per bolt, by the way, times 8. Like, this gets into kind of insanity, especially when you consider that you can potentially fire off anywhere between like 16 to 32 kicks. And if you can maintain all of those charges throughout the entire kick session, you're talking about, like, let's just say you kick 4 times. All right, so let's say you've got yourself an 8 kicker assassin, right? And I feel like we kind of need to bring up a calculator for this so that we can get some more interesting stuff here. Let me pull this up on camera, and we're going to do a little bit of multiplication. I got to bring up the calculator because I'm legendarily bad at math, especially quick math. That's where I'm really terrible. And fit to screen. All right, so let's just run a little bit of math here, and let's see what kind of damage we would output just from one of the abilities. Okay, so let's pretend, for instance, that the chain lightning triggers 8 times on one kick. Right, so 8 times on one kick from chain lightning, we're looking at a total of 8,064 damage. Which, by the way, not sure if you guys know this, but the chain lightning actually hits multiple times. So it actually comes in and twists around and literally says that the chain lightning can actually hit a target 2 or 3 times sometimes, depending on like how it moves, because it doesn't just like go outward. It goes outward and then comes back in and like snakes around. So we're not even just talking about one hit, we're talking about multiple hits, but we're not even going to calculate that. We're just going to calculate the single hits. All right, so 8,064 times 8 is already 64,512 damage within that small sphere. And then we're also talking about, say you can get off 4 kicks before the charges disappear, right? So 4 kicks is going to equal up to about 258,000 damage just for the chain lightning. And then you could throw in another charge. So you could throw in Claws of Thunder, which has Nova, 3,978 Nova damage. Throw in Blades of Ice, which has a 2,269 ice damage. The Fists of Fire has 2,920 damage. It also has a damage per second as well. So what we're looking at here is like an insanely high amount of damage that can be outputted within a very short space of time. Because you can walk up to a group of monsters and unleash everything that you've got into them within a matter of, like 4 seconds. Like literally 4 seconds goes by and you've literally fired 32 charges at this monster and just absolutely annihilated them from existence with lightning, fire, ice, AoE, and single target damage all being procced on the target at the same time, which is kind of insane. Like, I see this as, if it works out the way that it seems, I see this as an absolutely crazy build that could potentially surpass even like the current kicks in. Because you have to think, you can also add in your Crushing Blow, your Open Wounds, and potentially another proccing effect. So you could have something like, I'm trying to think right off the top of my head, like Carrion Wind for the Twisters. You can have various other pieces of equipment that might have other proccing effects on them. You can't really use Rifts with it, which is a pretty common one, but Rift is kind of like the same kind of thing here. So like how a Rift Sin works is you're kicking so fast that you're proccing all of these frozen orbs. And in a way, it actually kind of functions the same way. So your charges then become the proccing effect, and you're utilizing the Dragon Talon specifically to get those procs. And as long as you're not burning the charges, you can continually spam as many Dragon Talons as you can until either A, you've burned up all your charges, which will eventually happen, or B, the charges fall off on their own from their duration. Now, the charges don't have like the longest time span. Like if I go out here real quick and I just build a charge, let me just build any charge, it doesn't matter. So we got 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So about 18 seconds. They last for about 18 seconds. And of course, that's completely unofficial because I didn't actually use a clock. I was just counting it out. But about 18 seconds for a charge. So within 18 seconds, you build your charges as fast as you can. Maybe it takes you like 5 seconds to build your charges. You've got 13 seconds left to spam Dragon Talons, as many Dragon Talons as you can, until you run out of charges or the charges disappear on their own, and then you continue to go forward. So it's going to be a burst damage build. So you're just going to run in, you're going to build up all your charges, which, by the way, this character actually is set up for Phoenix Strike. So let me go ahead and show you how this works. So you would go in and you would get all your charges set up. So first thing you got to do is actually find some monsters to kill. Go ahead and build all your charges. And I've got them all set up on alternate butts here so I can build them all up. And then you're going to kick a monster, and it's going to look like that. Like, do you see how that monster just got obliterated off the face of the planet? Like, that kick, that one kick that I did to him was super powerful. But as soon as I did that, every charge that I had was gone. The difference between this and this is that potentially I could continue obliterating monsters as long as the charges remained. So I would just continually kick every single monster nearby and continually burn all of those charges on a target without actually consuming them, and the monsters would just continually be obliterated from existence. I can honestly imagine in my mind, like, playing this character, and it's probably going to be an absolute blast of a time. You're talking about being able to just, like, burst damage anything down that you come across to the point where when you're looking at the target, you're like, okay, that target's dead. And you kick it, and literally everything around it dies too, because it's all AoE damage. I mean, you got to think about the fact that Fist of the Fire is AoE. Claws of Thunder is AoE. Blades of Ice is AoE. Everything in Phoenix Strike is AoE, right? So as soon as you start kicking a target, all of these AoE effects are going to suddenly blossom out from this monster that is the unfortunate target of your rage. And then everything around it is probably going to die too. So this isn't like a single target killer. Like, if you build a regular kick sit, you know, that has like 100% crushing blow, you've got, you know, nice attack rating and everything, and maybe you're even using a rift or something like that, so you have some form of AoE damage. For the most part, you're still just single target, right? But you could potentially build your regular kicksin that utilizes all that crushing blow, and you could combine it with these charges at the same time, and you would end up with, like, an absolutely ridiculous killer of everything. Like, not only would you have, like, 100% crushing blow with a build like this, but you would also have just massive AoE damage to take out everything around the target that you're kicking as well. And I imagine it would probably work extremely well on bosses, too. Like, if we're killing, like, Diablo or Uber Mephisto or Uber Baal or something like that, like, the speed at which they would die from a fully charged up Dragon Talon kick spree, like, you just go up, like, let them spawn a couple of their monsters, build up your full charges, and then probably do, like, a Dragon Talon right on top of them, so get your Dragon Flight, you just Dragon Flight right in, and then just start unleashing your kicks. And Mephisto's HP would probably drop down in record time. We're probably talking about record Uber Tristram kills here. Because not only can you combine it, of course, with all the crushing blow and all the crazy stuff that you can do with a regular kicksin, but you can also combine it with the elemental damage now. It's just adding layers on top of a character that was already very good, in my opinion. Because the kicksin could already just absolutely annihilate most bosses. In many ways, it really reminds me of the North Star Smiter that I made recently. So my North Star Smiter was an attempt to create a character that was an extremely good boss killer and an extremely good density clearer at the same time. So you're trying to combine two things together. Because being a good boss killer doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good density clearer. And being a good density clearer doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good boss killer, right? So you kind of want the best of both worlds, and that's kind of what this is. Because the Dragon Talon skill already gives you the amazing boss killing potential. And then adding in all of these AoE elemental damage abilities gives you the ability to clear density. So when you're in there and you're dishing out your damage to your single targets, which is going to be your bosses, your elites, your champion packs, and whatnot, which is pretty much what you're going to target. Like, you're not going to target the trash mobs. All of these elemental damage AoE effects are just going to be annihilating everything around you while you're taking out those targets. And that's exactly how my North Star Smiter works, is literally he can annihilate any target in single target. Like, it doesn't matter what boss it is. It doesn't matter how the character, like how that monster is set up. He walks in, he absolutely demolishes them in single target, and then uses the Fist of the Heavens to density clear things around him. So I can definitely see this new build, like, with this claw. I feel like it's going to be absolutely fun to play, and the Phoenix Strike Assassin might actually be, I don't know, the new meta. I'd like to see it, because I'm kind of curious what the math is going to work out to and how long the charges will last. 25% seems a bit low. So I know that 25% is a lot, but when you're burning, say, 32 attacks within a relatively short period of time, a 25% chance not to burn charges is kind of low. I wouldn't want to see it at 100%, because 100% would just be kind of broken, in my opinion. And if it is 100, you could literally just continually burn these charges, like, never-endingly. It's also really important to note that in the patch previously, when they adjusted all of these skills, they made it so that Dragon Talon cannot miss when you have charges, okay? And this is really important, because I don't think a lot of people understand this, is that Dragon Talon has attack rating issues. And if you're using Dragon Talon by itself with no charges, you have an ability that misses on a regular basis, okay? But if you have something that is preventing those charges from being burnt, that means that every single time a charge isn't consumed, Dragon Talon is guaranteeing its hit. So you have basically a new smite ability. As long as you're utilizing a charge, Dragon Talon is a guaranteed hit. You have an ability that literally makes it so that you don't burn charges. Dragon Talon is hitting literally like 8 times per attack cycle, and you have 8 guaranteed hits per attack cycle as long as you have charges up, which makes it honestly kind of ridiculous in that regard. And then even like PvP situations, I could totally see somebody building up a full stack of charges and teleporting on top of somebody multiple times with Dragonflight. And as long as you're holding down the button, you're going to be burning more charges. So, like, you could potentially sit there and just keep tele-spamming on a target over and over and over again, burning hundreds of charges on this guy until all 6 charges, eventually come off after the 18 seconds. So you would literally go build your charges on, like, a random zombie or skeleton or something, I don't know, or maybe on his minion, whatever you can get your charges built with. Dragonflight onto them, and then start spamming Dragon Talon. You got guaranteed hits, tons of charges being pulled off, ice effects, fire effects, lightning effects. There's no way they would be able to counter every single element, since you literally have all 3 elements. Even if they have 75% resistance to all 3 elements, there's going to be one of them that you could probably take advantage of. I don't know, I like it. I'm definitely going to have to play around with this in PTR when it comes out. I'm assuming PTR is coming out next week. I'm pretty sure Pez Radar said that PTR was going to be next week, which I believe is this week, technically. This is the post that he made. He said DTR is ramping up toward PTR 2.6 update next week. Yeah, so So that was last week that he made this post. So we should be looking at PTR like probably, I want to say like Tuesday to Thursday. Usually Thursday is usually when they do that kind of stuff. They usually announce the patch notes on Tuesday. Then they announce the actual PTR launch on like Thursday or like Wednesday, Thursday. This one is definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. I think this is one that is going to be a lot more powerful than people realize. And if they tweak it a little bit, a couple tweaks here and there, maybe an adjustment to the percentage, and it could find its perfect balance. The only thing that I'm thinking off the top of my head is I'd like to see it a little bit higher than 25%. That is the wrong image. I would like to see it be 33%. I know that you can stack two of them, and two of them equals 50, but 2 at 66% feels a lot better than 2 at 50%. I think 2 at 33% would be better. But what we really need to do is really need to get our hands on it. We need to test it, and we need to play around with it. And once we get our hands on it and test it, then we'll know 100% for certain how broken and how overpowered it is. It's nice. It's a nice rune word. It's a good addition to the game. I think it's going to have a very lasting effect on the Phoenix Strike Assassin in general, which is a rather underplayed build. And we may see a lot more Phoenix Strike Assassins in the future. As always, I'd appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and definitely keep an eye out for PTR when it comes out, because I'll be live streaming that. And as always, thanks for watching, and keep watching.